Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Stories. It is such an honor to be here with Selena Lael. So grateful to have you join us. I'm popping in from Arizona today. I get to be here for a month or two, and so we get some nature with us, and we're gonna roll with anything that happens outside that we have less control over. The sacred surrender happening. Um, so welcome everyone. Let's drop into sacred space together. Just take a beautiful deep breath in and let it out gently. Let's do that one more time. As we come into sacred presence, I heard something recently that touched me so deeply, and that is that storytelling synchronizes listeners' and tellers' brains. That by sharing our stories and by listening to each other's stories, our brains synchronize. They connect to oneness. They connect to unity. And my blessing for us as we listen to Selena's sacred story today is that we're able to drop into the sacred presence of connection, of unity, and of wholeness. So may it be. Let your eyes gently flutter open, come back into this space. So it is such a treat to be with you. I was telling Selena before we hit record that I first discovered you via Insight Timer. You have amazing meditations on Insight Timer. And I've been really sick twice this year for like a month each time. And kind of scarily sick, like it was likely COVID, although who knows, because the testing wasn't available at the time. And so I'd be up a lot in the middle of the night, and I would turn to your meditation. And Selena, you just embodied to me like such divine mother love. It's so profound and just so gentle and so tender. And even like everyone will write little comments, with each meditation about how, like, really rating and reviewing them. And your responses to everyone are just filled with so much love. So I was so touched when I reached out that you were open to sharing your story and to connecting in this way. And I'm just struck again and again by the ways that this year has enabled us to connect with each other in more and more profound ways. And being able to hear each other's stories. So thank you. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be together and to be with your community that you've created. I feel really honored to be able to be part of what you've created.
Yeah.
And especially because it's this conscious intentional way of awakening the sacredness. All of life is sacred, yes, but we can sleep to it. Right? We can get caught in the mundane, caught in the stressors or the thoughts or the emotions. So to just have this beautiful space that you're creating for so many to connect with the sacred, I just find it so beautiful. And I feel honored.
Thank you. Yeah. And we're going to dive later into getting caught in the mundane. So I'm excited for that. Before we hear your sacred story, will you share with listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure, with pleasure. Where to begin? Well,
You know,
I
right?
often in these platforms introduce myself as a yoga and meditation instructor, a transformational life coach, also an awakened life teacher. Um, there's so many things I could say though. Yes, I am such a lover of life and travel. I'm a deeply a mystic at heart and soul, and come from a different upbringing, you could say, and I'll keep it brief. But I was raised in the United States. I was raised in a transcendental meditation home and essentially a transcendental meditation community. So I've been meditating since I was 5, and my
Wow.
parents had been meditating my entire life. And I was raised in a place where we actually went to a school. I only was there for a certain period of time, but integrated meditation and yogic principles and consciousness into academia, and it was mixed. It still exists to this day, but it's mixed in with this pre-existing farm community. So it's this very, very interesting place in the middle of Iowa.
It's time. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, so it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely have a very different upbringing from many Americans. Not to create separation, because we all have our own stories. Yes,
Yeah.
um, but I've been very, very, very fortunate to have many teachings of meditation and consciousness and compassion and awakening and sacredness as part of my life, my entire life, from my first teachers, my first gurus, my parents. So,
Wow.
yeah,
What a beautiful.
little backstory there.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm just thinking about like kiddos are such a portal to the divine. Like they're so tapped in. They don't have all the crap that gets put on us as we grow older. So to be able to like have that even enriched, you know, when you're so young, that just feels extraordinary to me. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Oh, good. Thank you.
Mhm.
So we'll dive into this more as the conversation unfurls. I wanted to invite you to share your sacred story. What is a sacred story that's touched and shaped your life?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we had discussed a specific story that I was thinking to share, but I feel to share something else.
Love it.
Uh, so I was a wild child, uh, in every way possible. Even though I was deeply spiritual, I was also very curious about life and constantly exploring different things, whether they were, considered healthy or unhealthy. I was looking for things. That true heart of the mystic, right, is that seeker, looking, longing to feel something, which I think each of us inherently feels. And when I was 18, my mom said to me, she said, "For my birthday present, I want to pay for you to come to a weekend workshop with this female saint that's coming through town."
Huh. Wow.
That's just to give you insight into my mom. Her birthday present that she was asking for was to be able to pay for me to attend a spiritual event.
I love it. And you were
And this
how old?
is,
You were
I
18.
was 18. I
Okay.
was 18. And of course, my whole life was very enriched by spirituality. I had been meditating since I was 5 and very consistently since I was 14. And so this wasn't an odd request, but I was quite wild at that time.
Love it.
So when I went to this workshop, I met my spiritual teacher now of almost 20 years, Her Holiness Saima. And I don't remember everything of that experience from that experience, but what I remember was feeling love and presence of love like I had never felt in my life. I felt loved in a way that I didn't know I was looking for. And I come from a very loving family, affectionate, kind. I mean, we're dysfunctional like every family,
Yeah.
but so much love in our family. I mean, we have this family experience where we put one of our family members between two others. So we make a sandwich with 3 people and we hug the person in the middle and rock back and forth and sing this song. This is the kind of family I come from in some
Got
ways.
it. Got it.
And I felt love like I didn't know existed in the presence of Saima. something blossomed in my heart. Just this blossoming, this opening, this preciousness, this tenderness of life, of love in the heart. And that was my first experience of meeting my spiritual teacher, my guru in this life. And all of, I wish to say before I move into the next part of my sharing that I find that many people in the West equate a guru to being somebody that you bow down to because they're better than you, somehow giving away one's power, manipulation. There are often many misconceptions about what a guru is, but I won't say but, and the body of work and the teachings that I have been soaked in, saturated in since birth,
Yeah.
teach us that the guru is just an embodiment of the awakened consciousness that each of us are.
Mm.
We are all one. We are all one source, one energy, one life force, one love, right? Little Bob Marley in the background here.
Yes. Yes.
Right? We are this one energy. And the guru in form is that consciousness that we each are awakened to itself. So Sai Ma is no better than me, no better than you. Sai Ma is an embodiment of what it is to be fully alive and awakened to the oneness that we are.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. So I love this, and I want to like dig in a little bit more. So when you were first exposed to does Saima use the pronouns she and her?
Sure, yes, yes.
Okay. So when you were first exposed to her, like what was the event like? Like what was she doing when you felt that sense of love? Was it just hearing her speak? Was she doing something? Like, can you paint more of a picture for us?
Yeah, with pleasure. And I'd love to actually share a different part of this story where I'll paint much more of a
Yeah,
vivid
perfect.
picture for us.
Okay, great.
Yes, it was a small gathering at that time. I mean, I'm not the best with calculating numbers, but I would say there were probably 50 to 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in some small conference room in a hotel that had been rented out in
Fascinating.
downtown Iowa City, Iowa.
Yeah.
And there was some semi-elevated stage area where Ma was sitting so that Ma could see everyone in the room and we could all see Ma. And we were just sitting in chairs or on the floor. And yes, it was just Ma speaking. It was just Ma speaking. I imagine we were taken through meditation experiences and things like this. I don't really recall. I will tell you what I do recall though.
Yeah.
Ma sang a song to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened to be a song that my mom had been playing for me since I was a child. It was one of the lullabies that my siblings and I grew up on. And this song, it's just such a beautiful, tender song as it is, but to have this presence of love like I didn't know could exist on the planet, sing this looking into my eyes was just like whatever barriers or walls or rigidity we live with to protect ourselves, to just find that safe haven inside, it all just melted away just from being sang this song. And some of you may be familiar with it. A beautiful soul and musician artist, Shayna Knoll, does the cover of it. She's not the original composer, but I'll just share in short. The words are, "How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul."
I felt that. Yeah. Oh, Selena. Yeah, I just keep coming back into my heart this idea of being loved in a way that I didn't even know I was looking for. It's something that's been dropping in for me as I've sat with this year and thinking about what I'm moving towards personally, professionally, romantically, all the things. And it's something about that that just like lights up my entire soul. Really feel it. Wow. Um, wow. Did you want to share us another story about that event? Was there something else that you wanted?
Not that specific event. That was actually my lead in for
Okay.
what I wish to share more of.
Perfect.
If now or later,
Now
whenever.
it's great. Now it's great.
So again, that experience, that first meeting of Saima, when I didn't even know I was looking for something. I mean, I knew I was looking for things, but I was looking for it in relationships and substances and going out dancing and drinking and making art, right? I didn't realize what I was really looking for. So fast forward a couple of decades almost. This story will have taken place 2 years ago
Huh?
in January in India, where there is a gathering called the Kumbh Mela. The Kumbh Mela, it may, as far as I know, it may be the largest spiritual gathering on the planet.
Oh,
If
wow.
I'm not mistaken, over the last time that it took place, which was 2 years ago now, over I think a 2 month period, I may be I may be misquoting here, but I believe 500 million people attended this spiritual gathering. And not just people who are Indian or Hindu, but people from all over the world. It's this ultimate gathering of souls, you could say, where the mystic, the seeker, the pilgrimage of the soul, of the spirit that is looking for that peace, that bhakti, that devotion, that connection, that oneness. They're called, and all of these people, many of them, if not most of them, part of the experience of being at this event in India at the Kumbh Mela is to bathe in the sacred river, Mother Ganga, the holy river of India. So you imagine it's in different places every so many years, and it has a certain cycle. And the last, actually, both times I've been there, when it was in a place known as Allahabad. And if you just picture with me for a moment, when the Kumbh Mela is not happening, this is a massive space of miles upon miles of mostly empty space,
Yeah.
kind of desert-ish. For anyone who's familiar with the U.S. Festival Burning Man,
Yeah.
it has some interesting synchronicities
Parallels. Okay.
where, yes, parallel, where much of this open space where the Kumbh Mela takes place is empty when the Kumbh Mela is not happening.
Right.
But when it is happening, it is full of pop-up camps and tents and even places where structures are built that look like they've been there for years. I mean, people will create entire structures or even buildings, and then they'll take them down after this event. So just imagine miles and miles of a pop-up city of people coming to honor the sacred with each other, the divine. So I'm in this camp where Saima has created a camp for all of those who wish to come. And not only do we spend time meditating quite often each day and being part of sacred ceremonies, but part of what happens in this camp is we feed, not necessarily the students who are there, but many people are there offering selfless service and feeding thousands of people in our camp a day. And this is what you see all across the Kumbh Mela. People will come with nothing and they can go to many different places to be fed, to be cared for.
Yeah.
So I'll keep this part of the story more concise. After knowing that Saima is an expression of my heart in another body,
Yeah.
I had never had an opportunity to be part of one of the most sacred ceremonies that take place with the guru or with Saima, which is called Guru Diksha, where it's just a beautiful sacred ceremony where there's a deepening of the devotion and the openness and the receptivity. You could say the surrender for those of you that can resonate with that word when we surrender to the divine. Because again, the surrendering isn't to Saima as a human or Saima as a person or giving the power away. It's surrendering to the divine that I am. I'll say one other thing here before I continue on. One thing that I found to be true, I've heard this over the years about the guru, but and actually I believe Saima shared this with me, but I feel it so deeply in my heart and soul. And it's that the guru is just a reflection of us. Again, there's no difference, there's no separation, there's no better or worse than. And for many of us, it's very difficult to love ourselves. And we could go into that, but that's a whole other topic.
I have that in my notes.
Right, right. It's so difficult to love ourselves. So, and even if we think we're loving ourselves, there's still some barriers sometimes in that relationship. And so when our heart melts open in the grace of the guru's presence, which is just another version of us, a reflection of us, it teaches us to love ourselves just completely with abandon. By being able to love another in that way so deeply, we learn to love ourselves.
What it like, can you be a little more specific for us? Like what did that mean for you? Because self-love, well, self-love has I think a lot of people have strong associations with it, right? And it can mean so many things. So
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, like how, like what that meant.
Yeah. In short, I would say the absolute acceptance of every single part of me.
Yeah.
And not just absolute acceptance, but absolute cherishing
Yeah.
and
Racing.
tenderness
Yeah.
for every single part. There's not one little speck of the personality or the higher self or the body that is not welcomed in that embrace of love.
Yeah. That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Uh,
Continue.
yes, please.
Thank you. So I had never participated for one reason or another. I had never been at an event when Guru Diksha was taking place, or just something just always worked out that I was never in a time and place when I could say yes to this experience of Guru Diksha, which I'll share a little more of in a moment. This was being offered 2 years ago at the Kumbh Mela when I was there.
Yeah.
So I was finally able to be part of this sacred ceremony, which in my soul I felt like I'd been longing for. But I also felt, well, if it hadn't happened until now, then I wasn't ready on some level. So I must be more,
Yeah. Yeah.
more available.
Right.
This is what I'd like to share mostly of this story. My hair, you can't really tell right now, but my hair is very wavy and has curls and it has a lot of body and life to it. And until 2 years ago, it was down past my waist. And it's definitely one of the physical attributes that makes me feel beautiful, makes other people think I'm beautiful. I mean, talk about association with some physical attribute
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how it equals beauty or accepting, right?
Yeah.
So, as part of the Guru Diksha ceremony, I don't recall if this was mandatory or not. It may have been not mandatory, but an invitation if you really wanted to be fully in this experience was to shave the head. Because the hair, we could talk more about the science, but the hair holds DNA. It also holds, you could say, karma,
Mm.
past action, energy. So much is stored in the hair. So when we remove the hair, it's as if we are removing and just releasing and being freed of these old ways of being, patterns, energies. And of course, it's such a powerful expression of saying, I'm not my body.
Yeah.
I'm lovable even if I'm bald.
Mm-hmm.
So the morning of the ceremony, I was in a small group of people. There were just a few chairs set up. The whole, experience is like an outside, kind of glamping, kind of glamping, glamorous campground. And we're just a few chairs. And this Indian man, he's a barber, he comes to our camp. He's been invited to come and to shave our heads. I see all the people before me. Most of them have been having those little, buzzy, shavers. This guy comes with a straight razor. He's holding a little razor in his hand. And I just sit there. And as many people were getting their heads shaved, I would see them crying. You could tell there was some powerful release happening, or maybe they were feeling really attached to letting their hair go, or just it was very emotional. And I sat there. And of course, there were many expressions of experience, not just that. But as this man was shaving my head, I had my eyes closed. And these long, curly, magnificent locks of my identity are getting dropped to the earth below me. And I felt this freedom washing through me. This grace just starting to pour into every cell of my body, every cell. And after the experience of having my head shaved, before it was time to prepare for Guru Diksha, now it was time to go wash the body, wash all this hair off that's on my shoulders and whatnot, and to go prepare myself to be received by the sacred within me, without, both. And we had these little makeshift showers. And I walked into this little makeshift stall, where we had a bucket and we had a hot and cold faucet. You were lucky if you ever got hot water. It's very cold there, by the way, at this time of day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like I would have my coat on. And it's not a heated room. Remember, we're camping out in the desert.
Right.
And as I go into the stall and I'm slowly removing my clothes, my Punjabi, it's this kind of like long dress shirt and the pants and the scarves, and I'm removing it. And there's this tenderness, like something I can't even name. And I'm slowly moving and my heart just feels like the heart of a newborn baby. And I'm standing naked, no hair, my feet on the cold earth with this bucket of water. And I kneel down almost kind of like in a fetal position to get low enough to the ground. And I slowly start to pour, you have a little handle that you stick into the big bucket. And I slowly start to pour this warm water over my head. And it was like the experience of bathing a newborn baby, like being completely reborn in the grace of love. Almost as if the hand that was pouring the water over my head was the hand of God, the hand of the divine, bathing this sacred body that is this sacred vessel. It was one of the most intimate moments I've ever had in my entire life. To be God, bathing God, to be God, loving God. And after this experience, I put on the clean clothes, my body prepared, this sacred relationship with myself completely established and enlivened. And we went into the beautiful space that was created for the ceremony, with beautiful scarves hanging in a beautiful tent where Saima was seated on this beautiful kind of swinging chair. People would go up to Saima one by one, and each one, the pundits, these Hindu priests, they would gracefully put this silk scarf over the head of Saima and each student that came forward as Saima, and the student had this intimate moment. And then when the intimate moment was complete, Saima would place this sacred necklace over the person, and you receive this prasad, this gift, and there were just, it was beautiful. There were flowers and all these beautiful colors, and incense is burning, and when it was my turn to experience this moment of Guru Diksha, my heart was swelling. It was just overflowing with the love of the divine, just swelling. And it wasn't about the body of Saima in front of me. It was about life itself as the divine, and every beating heart and every particle in the air and every flower and every waft of incense. It was all the divine.
feel it. And I just, I, I've, I have like, I wouldn't even say so many thoughts because it feels very, they feel so grounded thoughts. Um, the way that you captured self love as this, like, I don't even feel like there are words, like all encompassing doesn't even begin to capture it. But the way that you share that from how you, how the divine bathed you after having your head shaved and then being in her presence. Yeah, I love it. And I have to share. I'm going to do a vulnerable share right now. I wasn't expecting to go here, but it's perfect. So I was thinking a lot about what you said about hair, and I've been having a lot of trouble with hair loss lately. I think related to um, just my own nervous system and dancing with life. And the way that you shared that hair holds karma and DNA, and sometimes it needs to be shed, just was like, whew, like, wow, what a beautiful reframe. Like, what a powerful way of thinking about um, just letting go of shit that we don't want to be carrying, you know? So, oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Um, this feels actually like a beautiful time to kind of come back to where we started before your story about um, thinking of these experiences that we have of oneness, whether it's, you know, being in India and the most incredible spiritual experience ever, or even just a beautiful hike in nature where we have this reset button of, right, this is what's really important, you know, or a beautiful moment with a child or whatever it is. And I know, and for myself, especially at the end of this year, we're recording now at the very beginning of December and really reflecting on all of the lessons that 2020 has offered and all of the clarity that I've gotten about what's really important to me, how I want to live. And I'll just share for myself, like, radical simplicity is this refrain that keeps coming up again and again and again. Um, and yet here we are, you know, in the US, like living life with all of the things it presents itself with. How do you sustain this? Like how do you bring that energy into um, all of the balls that we're juggling? I think that's where I feel it the most. It's like I can be really present even in a social media post, you know, or something like that. But it's just like, it just feels like there's so much to kind of staying even moderately on top of life as modern people. Um, yeah. How do you infuse this consciousness into the mundane? What does that look like for you?
So important to talk about
Yeah.
because many of us know the experience of overwhelm in our regular lives, and now with everything happening in the world, it's this whole other creature, this whole other experience.
Yeah.
I've been speaking to, this came up with some clients recently and some friends also, this idea of mastery. You know, you think about someone who is just a really skilled pianist or violinist. They don't stop practicing and expect to maintain their skill level. Like, for them to maintain a certain level of skill, they have a consistent, disciplined practice. If you think about someone who's a triathlete, you know, they don't stop training and expect to be strong for the next season. It's about consistency. And this also makes me think of Sai Ma's teachings, because Ma's teachings are, Ma's always said, I'm not here for followers. I'm here to create masters,
Mm.
because we are all masters. And it's about awakening to that, and engaging our actual skills and tools and brains to create the life that we're wanting to create. I think many of us, especially those of us who are deeply spiritual, or move towards the spiritual or the mysticism in life, um, we feel like things are kind of happenstance sometimes, like, oh, it's the grace of life, maybe you get it, maybe you don't, it's the luck of life, maybe you have blessings, maybe you don't. But we have so much more free will than that. We have so much more free will to create an awesome life, to create a life that we're wanting. And consistency, you can use the word discipline if you choose, but I know for some of us it kind of rubs us the wrong way. But
Practice.
right, right. Consistent practice, though, right? Consistency, repetition with whatever you're doing that uplifts you is key. Even if you say, well, I just took a walk in nature, which is my soul food, I just did that for 60 days straight. And I know 60 days is how long it takes to form a new habit. You don't stop after that 60 days. One, because being in nature makes you feel better. And two, because it is that ongoing practice that is going to continue to cultivate what it is you're wanting to experience. I'll pause there for a moment. I'd love to hear if you have any.
No, I love that. I love that. And it, to me, the phrase that just popped in was coming back home, like coming back home to ourself in deeper and deeper ways. And I was having a conversation with another one of our Sacred Stories guests about the spiritual practice more as a sacred spiral. Like we're not necessarily like, I know for myself sometimes when I feel like I'm off or I'm struggling with the same thing again, my sense of overwhelm or whatever it is, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm back here again. But it's not that. It's that we're approaching it from a deeper layer. And now this is a chance to come back home in a new way. So I love that. And I love that we each get to figure out what lights us up. I think for me, um, I mean, nature is huge, and also like podcasts are a huge source of my spiritual practice, like being able to listen to certain people who are vibrating on a particular level is like incredible. It just helps me tap into my own spirit. So I love that. What are the practices that you have found that have been the most transformative for you? I know you've studied and taught via yoga sciences and neuroscience and psychology and spirituality and meditation. There have been so many different um, kind of spheres you've explored. Like, where have you found like the Selena grounding that is so powerful?
Thanks for bringing it back around to that. I know I missed that in your previous
No,
question.
it's perfect.
So, meditation, daily meditation, is the foundation of the calm, the focus, the emotional balance that I experience in my life, and of course, the a more um, conscious connection with the divine, which is all of life in my perspective. So having a regular meditation practice, and even though I ebb and flow, I'm not rigid. There have been times in my life where I mean, like I probably went years without missing a day of meditating. Even when I was younger, I'd be hungover, but I would meditate. I'm a little more relaxed about it now, because I also know that there are other ways that I can meditate, but meaning like maybe being in nature, or just sitting silently in the sunshine. Something like this can also be an expression of meditation. And I find that there are specific practices for me that have served me the best over time. And again, there's been an ebb and flow. They're not always the same, but for quite some time now, um, I use practices where there is visualizing light in every part of this body. So, and getting specific, and I invite anyone who wants to try this practice on, look at the human anatomy, and you can even just look at a picture of the human anatomy and just imagine light is like, bright in every part of the body that you look at. So I start with the brain, and I do this practice every day. Light in every part of the brain, especially the limbic system, but every part of the brain. I just see it all lit up until it's this glowing sphere of light. Light in the spinal cord, the nervous system, the every organ, the tissues, the bones, the cells, really enlightening the physicality with the consciousness. And then I move through the chakras. If you're familiar with the energetic systems of the body, move through the chakras, the nadis, and even the subtle bodies, the energetic bodies around the physical body. This is part of my daily practice. And I feel what's powerful about this practice is, or any practice that makes us feel like I'm about to express, is it reminds me that there's more than the mundane. It reminds me that there's more than my thoughts about my career or my family or my friends or relationships. Life is more than exercising or even, having different spiritual practices. Life is so much more than the limited mind understands and can see. So, what practices, I invite that for each of us, what practices do you have in your life that kind of help you to step back and remember, oh, wow, there's something else happening here. I can't totally remember what it is that I'm forgetting, but I can feel, I can sense there's something else here.
I love that. And I flashed immediately to my first experience with a psychic. And I remember like it was a Skype call, hanging up from that Skype call, being like, holy shit, like there is this whole other dimensional world that exists. Like, can I just play there all day long? Like, it was so, it was like, my first experience beyond just the 3D world. And that to me is exactly what you're saying. Like, we get to discover this for ourselves. Like, what are the ways that we can be reminded of there's something way bigger than like just this going on? Yeah. And I love the visualizing of light. That's beautiful. Are there ways?
Nature.
Oh,
I
sorry.
was just saying nature, also nature, dancing. I'm really committed to my yoga asana practice, my physical practice. Chanting is a beautiful way to just go to that divine source of the heart. I mean, just sitting in silence, just sitting in silence can be a game changer. And actually, well, if we have time for a practice, we'll share a brief mindfulness practice for us, because I know what happens sometimes is we get so caught in the mind and the emotions, we don't know how to get off of the merry-go-round. We don't know how to step out of that experience. Before we know it, we're just overwhelmed and kind of trapped in that anxiousness or that fear or that pain or whatever is arising. So use things that focus your mind on something in the present moment. Like right now you're in a wonderful place to have so many things to look at. When we're in nature, just find one thing to focus on and breathe. Or it could be just something like around you. Like I have this hand lotion here, and I could just sit and I could just consciously breathe deeply. I'll move this over here, the light's coming through. Consciously breathe deeply, and then I could look at the colors. And rather than letting my mind drift to the thoughts about the things that I'm worried about or scared about or afraid about or angry about or sad about, I just look at these colors and I just think, okay, this is purple and this is yellow and that's green. And then I look at the shapes and I just keep breathing and feeling my body as I look at the textures and the colors, as I feel what it feels like, the weight of it in my hand. Simple mindfulness practices where we consciously choose to focus on something right in front of us, meaning in the moment.
Yeah.
And those thoughts are going to compete for our attention, but we don't give them our attention.
Right.
We just keep coming back to some single pointed focus, and the whole nervous system goes
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like you just hit the nail on the head there. It's where do I want to put my focus? Like, where do I want to put my focus? Yeah. There's another practice that can be grounding when we feel like we're spinning out, which is if we're sitting in a room, just to bring our eyes slowly to each of the four corners of the room. That can be like just grounding. Yeah. um I'm curious. I want to ask one more question, then I'm going to invite you to lead us in something. I think the biggest thing that I've been sitting with lately has just been all the juggling. And um, however this shows up in our lives, whether it's like kids and work and self care and romantic partner and like doing laundry and all the things, or for me, building a really spiritually aligned business that just includes like a lot of different balls that are kind of simultaneously in motion. um yeah, I'm curious to hear like what tips you have for us when we feel like we're juggling a lot and we want to be present, and at the same time it feels like we're about to drop a whole lot of balls. how how do you dance with that?
Hmm. That's how I usually start. I take a breath. Let's just take a breath together. Sometimes it is just as direct. I wouldn't say simple, but just connecting with the breath is a game changer, because when we breathe deeply and we focus on fully exhaling, that activates the vagus nerve. And when the vagus nerve is activated, it turns on the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is that part that's go, 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 do, do, do. I feel overwhelmed. I have 80 things on my list. That's what's active when the sympathetic nervous system is functioning. It's the way most of us function most of the time. Parasympathetic is the part that turns on when we're in deep REM sleep, when the body's digesting. It's known as rest and digest. So breathing deeply can literally take us out of that fight, flight, freeze response in the nervous system and bring us into more of the rest and digest. Another thing that I do when I become aware of it, because awareness is the first step to anything, right? If you want something different in your life, you have to first know you want something different. Otherwise, you don't have the agency to change it. You might just say something's wrong, but if you're not aware of what it is that you want to shift, then you're just caught in that randomness, right? So awareness, awareness. And when I'm aware that I'm in that experience of overwhelm or just feeling like there's so much happening, I start to remind myself that, well, first of all, I usually notice that it feels like trying to climb a mountain. That's kind of the feeling. It feels like being at the bottom of Mount Everest, which is the tallest mountain in the world, right? And like the most dangerous to climb. Maybe not the most, but probably one of the most. When I become aware of, or just when I just feel the overwhelm of everything that I have to handle in my life and everything that I want and everything that I don't want and everything I'm striving for and everything that is, right? When I realize I'm in that space, it feels like I'm at the bottom of Mount Everest. And to complete all of those tasks, I'm going to have to get to the top in a day. It feels impossible. It feels daunting. It feels like I may as well just give up where I am. I don't even know how to begin. I feel so much stress just thinking about it.
I feel
So,
so much stress hearing you describe
yeah,
it.
I know. That's why I'm trying to move on from it, because I know we're all contracting a little more now. So I remind myself that it's about step by step by step by step. It's step by step by step by step. And sometimes something that's really helpful is, we hear things like, oh, life is about the journey, it's not the destination. But truly, our entire lives are the journey. There's this great quote, Alfred de Souza. Alfred D. Souza. He wrote the quote about, many of you have probably heard it. It's something along the lines of, dance like no one's watching, sing like no one's listening. He wrote that quote, and he wrote another quote that I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it says something along the lines of, I was in my life and I wanted things to happen, and I kept waiting for my life to start, but there were all of these obstacles and these problems that I would always be wading through, just trying to get through the obstacles and problems so my life could finally begin the way it's supposed to be. And he said, and then I realized that those obstacles and problems were my life.
Right.
Each moment is the sacredness and the preciousness of our life. Each moment is the sacredness and the preciousness of our life.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that if we can use those moments, like you say, oh, I feel like I'm about to climb Everest. For me, I feel like I'm drowning, right? We each have kind of different metaphors. If we can use that cue as like, oh, okay, this is now when I get to, even though I feel like what I need in this moment is to do more and more and more to like start to make my way up the mountain. What I actually need is to pause, to remember what is the touchstone for me about the best way to come back home to myself. Um, I loved what you said about chanting. By the way, chanting stimulates our vagus nerve also. So it's like a beautiful parasympathetic touchstone. Yeah, I really love that. Like in the moments when we're noticing the story running wild or whatnot, our instinct is to do more or to figure it out. But what we really need to do is like step back, come back home, and do a practice that feels good. That's a little bit of a pattern interrupt. Yeah. I had one of
Yes.
those days yesterday.
Yes. And also,
No, you go. Go ahead.
please, please, please.
I've been practicing this lately. That's what I was going to say. I was telling you before we started recording that the past week and a half really like knocked me on my tush. And um, I think a big part of my reset button was just taking a day to move through life really slowly, really unplugged, like really soft and gentle. And again, being able to say, okay, like what's really important to me here? Um, Rob Bell, one of my favorite spiritual teachers. Do you know who Rob Bell is at all? Oh, he's like the most wonderful joie de vie former pastor who now is just like more embracing in spiritual
Mm.
inclusivity. He has a great podcast called the Robcast. He likes to say the action is here when speaking about just all of life happening. Like the action, if the action is here, then we get to decide how we want to be in this moment. So yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just remembering that, like when I say step by step, that it's about baby steps. If this entire, we have this sense of urgency, right? That's what can feel so overwhelming. There's this sense of urgency, like so many things have to get done, and if they don't, the world's going to end. And it really feels that way sometimes.
Yeah.
But to remember that even though there's that sense of urgency, so many of those things that we feel will be devastating if they don't happen by a certain time, they'll be okay. If someone has to wait a little longer for you, they'll be okay. If you don't get something in by the deadline that you're supposed to, you're not going to die. No one's going to die. At least, maybe there's some rare circumstances, if you're a surgeon or something, that may be different, but for most of us, that's not the case. We may face rejection, we may face judgment, we may face discomfort, but it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. So how can we focus on what I call, I think of as baby steps? What baby steps can you take towards whatever you need to accomplish, or whatever you want to accomplish, especially when it comes to our desires and aspirations and our dreams?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than thinking you're supposed to be someplace other than you are, what can you do today? One small step today. And one last thing I'd like to say on that before we transition,
Yeah.
because I know so many of us live in this space of feeling like something's wrong or something's missing. You know, I'm supposed to be someplace different. I'm supposed to have a different kind of relationship. My body should be different. There's all this feeling
Should
that
be
something's
doing
not the way.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, I should be doing more. I should be using my gifts. I should be more successful. I should be doing the things that I could be, right? We live in this way. And what I invite each of us, this is one of the most powerful practices, I find at least, is think about your life 5 or even 10 years in the past. And think about you 5 or 10 years ago and how much you have or you are living right now today that was just a dream or a desire for that version of you 5 or 10 years ago, and realize it's okay. And it's just about patience. You know, I remember 5, 10 years ago, I wanted to be in such a different place in my career because I felt like I was supposed to be, and I had so much to give and so many things I wanted to do, right? But not but, and life unfolds as it's meant to. Life unfolds with the way that it does. It doesn't happen overnight. So, how can we practice patience and kindness and compassion for ourselves first and foremost as our life unfolds? How do we trust the unfolding? Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, how do we trust the unfolding?
Mm-hmm. I love the 5 year increment. Because a lot happens in 5 years, right? And that's such a, yeah, that's powerful. I was using that technique even just thinking like 6 months ago when I was just being hard on myself the last week and a half, which is not like me, but it was happening. But when I stopped to be like, okay, Jess, 6 months ago even, look at all that you've created since then. That, yeah, it was helpful. And when I think about 5 years ago, like, my goodness, I was still in Seattle leading a congregation, and now I'm in Denver and creating my dream life. Like, that's pretty darn good. I can get behind that. So yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, thank you, Selena. um what a treat. Oh, so many beautiful nuggets. And I think really like what I'm holding with me is just your beautiful energy. And again, like, we're all reflections of each other. We have this inside, and so we get to decide what vibration we want to be on as we dance with this beautiful adventure of life, right? Yeah, I love it. Would you like to just share some ways that folks can connect with you and offerings that you have before you lead us in something?
With pleasure. Thank you again so much for having me. It's so beautiful to connect with you and know that our time together today is going to be shared, you know, with so many, and my I trust that it will touch the hearts of anyone who's available to have their heart touched. So, yes, as I mentioned before, I lead yoga and meditation, and I work with people one-on-one, transformational coaching. So you can access all of my offerings through my website, which is selenalael.com, selenalael.com. And I also lead live meditation and yoga with 2 different apps. One of them we already mentioned, Insight Timer. That's just a fantastic app. They're both fantastic apps. So I lead live classes there and have a quite a diverse content library there that you can listen to for free, different meditations and talks. I also lead live classes and have much recorded content on another app called Wellness Coach. Also a great way to connect there. And Costa Rica, Costa
Woo-hoo!
Rica, baby.
Yes.
Pandemic, you know, I wouldn't say pending, but you know, it's all dependent on what's happening in the world right now. But my next retreat, yoga, meditation, jungles, beaches, it's going to be February 27th through March 6th, 2021. in Costa Rica. It's an absolutely divine place to be on the planet, and the retreat center where we host these retreats is just so beautiful. It overlooks the jungle and the oceans, and we just spend the week eating the most divine, healthy, local organic food and meditating together and doing yoga and swimming in the pool and the ocean. And it's also choose your own adventures. So if you want to add on things like all of the spa treatments or scuba diving or surf lessons or horseback riding on the beach, there's so much to experience. So would love to be together for that. That's happening again at the end of February, and you can find out more about that on my website as well.
Thank you. I can't imagine a better way to spend the end of February into March than on an incredible retreat with you in Costa Rica. We'll link to everything in the show notes. Yeah, thank you. This was such a treat. I was saying to Selena before we recorded that I want to close with you offering a practice and not have me speaking after that, so that we can kind of just end with this beautiful sacred container. So I'm going to let you share kind of whatever comes into your heart. I'm going to mute myself and let you kind of take us out. That's okay.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you all so much for your presence. Thank you for this opportunity to be together. I'm very, very grateful.
Such a treat. Such a delight. Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so let's all close the eyes. Roll the shoulders up and back a couple of times and feel them relax down. And that space across the chest and the heart more open, more receptive. Feel your feet on the ground or your hips sinking down into the support beneath you. And feel the spine lifting up toward the sky, creating space for the breath to move through the body, the energy to move up and down the spine. Feel the small muscles around the eyes and the mouth begin to soften. And allow there to be a space between the teeth so the jaw can release down. Deepen the breath, slow it down. And without moving the body, take a moment to scan the body for different sensations without any judgment, without needing to change what you feel. Notice different sensations in the body. Maybe you feel temperature, coolness, or warmth. Maybe you notice the quality of the breath, areas that feel light or heavy, tight or expanded. Bring your awareness fully to these sensations in the body. Even notice areas that feel far away or numb. Feel how the body is breathing for you. There's nothing for you to do in this moment. The breath naturally flows in and out. Move your awareness now to the mind. Again, without any judgment, begin to watch the mind, witness the thoughts. And rather than hold on to a thought and think more about it? Can you notice a thought and then allow it to pass? Notice another thought and just allow it to pass. There's nothing to judge. Thoughts are like the clouds that move across the sky. They're temporary. We are that eternal sky, that infinite space. We are eternity. And the thoughts are temporarily passing through our awareness one by one. And now bring the awareness to the emotions. Gently shift. Take a deep breath in and out. And notice any emotions that are present. Nothing to judge, nothing to make go away. Emotions are not only a part of this human experience, but they're really the juice of life. Emotions move us towards things, away from things. They propel us in our lives towards our dreams and desires. What emotions do you feel right now? And if you're having difficulty feeling, maybe you feel numbness, or maybe it feels like all of the emotions are just pooling together like muddy water. I invite you to move into your body. Feel where there's a strong sensation in the physical body. Maybe a tightness or a heaviness or a freedom. And start to discern what emotion is in that sensation of the body. This tightness feels like fear, or this freedom feels like joy, without judgment. Just notice. And if you find your mind getting involved telling stories about why you feel what you feel, it's okay. Can you practice allowing those clouds, those thoughts to pass as you breathe into whatever you're feeling in this moment without judgment? Let's take another deep, full breath together, in and out. We'll move into a 4-part breath. Whatever you're feeling in this moment is okay. Whatever you're thinking is okay. If holding your breath is uncomfortable, I invite you to just move seamlessly from the inhalation to the exhalation. Otherwise, we're going to also pause and hold the breath briefly. So let's take a breath in together. Exhale slowly. Through the nose, inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently pause, hold the breath. Through the nose, exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1, gently pause and hold. Through the nose, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. 3 more rounds like this. Count in your own mind. After your third round, breathe naturally. Feel your awareness moving deeper within, like you are gently diving deep into your center. This depth of wisdom in you, this depth of silence, deep, deep inside. And from this space within, find an intention that you choose for your life, for this day, week, month, the new year, maybe the rest of your life. What is an intention from this depth of wisdom and stillness of love that you choose for your life? If you wish, I invite you to create a sankalpa, this intention statement, and we'll use the words I am. So let us transform our intention into a statement that calls it into being, that says, this is already happening in my life, not someday, but right now. So, for example, if your intention is to live a peaceful life, maybe your intention is, I am peace in every moment. Or if your intention is to heal and be free, maybe your sankalpa, your intention is, I am free and fully alive. Bring this intention to life in your mind right now and create this statement that says, this is the truth of my life, of who I am. And then repeat it to yourself 3 times out loud or in your mind. And so it is. Become aware of the sounds around you, the air moving across your skin. Feel your body supported by the seat beneath you. Allow the body to sway a little from side to side. And when you're ready, slowly open the eyes. Thank you all. It's such a great joy and honor to be together. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
That was heavenly. Thank you, Selena. What a friggin' treat. I felt my joy come in so strongly. And she's like, let's have some fun today. And I've been missing her. So, what a gift. Thank you for that beautiful meditation. I'm so excited for folks to connect with you down the road. And it was an honor to be in Sacred Conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.